Thank you. Well, obviously it's Ryan from AMS here, but I don't know if you know who this is. John.
This microphone looks really familiar.
Doesn't it? Do you have a story about the microphone?
Somebody ran into my beard with it.
That's right. He's sitting right over there.
It wasn't dented before that.
Well, you can keep it when we're done. We'll get another windscreen for it.
All right.
So tell me about this guitar. This is the signature model 493, I believe, from Music Man.
Well, actually, so this is JP15.
Yep.
And I've been with Ernie Ball Music Man for, I was trying to figure out how many years, over 25 years.
That is correct. I knew that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so over the course of that time, we sort of developed the guitar into all these different incarnations, starting with the JP6. Yeah. And then when it was a 10-year anniversary, we did the JPX, and then we started making changes, JP11, JP13. But eventually we got to this point, which was the 15 several years ago. And then the guitar stayed.
The 15.
Because we kind of figured everything out that I was looking for.
So you feel there's nothing else you could go to the next level?
No other ways that we could make this guitar any more incredible.
Well, that's the thing, too. And it's funny, you talk to a number of Music Man artists, and they'll tell you, like, they work with their artists, and they almost don't say no to it.
No, we literally just did me and John Mayung, Dream Theater's bass player, and Brian Ball, we just did a Q&A at the booth, and that exact thing came up. It's like, I'll come up with these wacky requests, and they don't say no. They say, how can we do that? You know? And to the point where they actually may have to build some new equipment or machinery, you know, and do some techniques they've never done before. And so that spirit of like wanting to reach, new levels and be innovative, it's mind blowing.
Do you ever sit at home and go, I'm going to come up with something so ridiculous just to see if they'll, I want a guitar made out of fire.
Right, exactly.
You want flame maple? No, I want it to be actual flames.
Yeah, exactly.
And
well, that is what
yes.
I said, and this is what they came up with.
Well, it does look like fire.
This is actually solar flare. That's the name of this color.
There you go. I knew that.
You see that?
So then if you feel that you've reached the apex of the John Petrucci models, where do you go from there? What do you do?
There's a bunch of things. I mean, with the JP15 and the Majesty, which is the next neck through. I can't talk. I'm NAMMed. I have NAMM disease.
You're talking perfectly fine.
With the Majesty, once we get to the point where all of those things we were just talking about are all figured out, then the fun that we have moving forward every year is thinking of new ways to present the guitar as far as finishes, maybe wood combinations, things like that.
Right.
And so what we've been really having a lot of fun again with is every year debuting some new colors, new finishes.
And Scott Ball works with you on those too.
Yeah, and Scotty is great. And he, we have these long talks about it, and then he'll send me pictures and we'll go back and forth. And ultimately, I get the call where it's like, okay, you got FaceTime, and then they're showing me all the things, him and Tomas, they just show me all these incredible finishes that they've come up with. And I'm always blown away. I always think, how are we going to top what we did? I was sitting here in this same spot last year. Like, these are the best finishes. This is it. We'll never top the, and then outcome these for 2025.
But it's also got to be somewhat exhausting considering how hands-on you are with your effects, with your amps, with your guitar. Well, obviously with writing music and staying prolific. Where does it all come from? How do you know how to channel that?
For me, I love it. I think that's the bottom line, is that I'm so nerdy with all this. Like, I just love I love playing guitar. I never get tired of it. I always look forward to picking up the guitar. I'm like a tone freak, tone nerd. So I'm always like searching for sounds and trying to perfect that.
Yeah.
And fortunately for me, I get to work with some, companies that are like my favorite gear makers. If it's not Ernie Ball Music Man, it's Mason Boogie, or it's DiMarzio, or it's Dunlop, and so these are companies that, I was a fan of their products before I was ever
anybody.
Right, exactly.
Yeah,
and so getting to like design a guitar,
pinch me moment, isn't it?
It really is.
Yeah.
And so for me, it's kind of like this great culmination of all the stuff that I'm really hyper interested in.
So it doesn't feel like work.
It doesn't. And then with people that are, they're like the best in the business at doing it. They're like complete artisans, like incredible engineers. They just have have everything.
It's amazing too, because prior to getting in here, they were saying, well, we don't know if John's going to play. And the first thing they hand you a guitar and you're going, la, la, la.
Right.
It's just like you couldn't stop yourself.
Yeah.
And I think that's what comes out. I think that's why you have the longevity that you have, why you have a rabid fan base, is that I think people can tell that you're genuinely into it. It's not going through the motions or just slapping your name on something for the sake of doing it. You seem to be very involved in it.
Yeah. It's never been the former. Yeah. It's everything that I do, I put my heart into. And it, same thing with the music. I mean, the fans that Dream Theater has all around the world are so passionate, they're so supportive, and they know that we feel the same way about what we do. So it's just this great relationship.
So let's talk about that new album coming out.
That's right.
Well,
who told you?
I heard a few things in the grapevine, but
thank you for mentioning it. Yeah. So this is our 16th studio album. We're currently on our 40th anniversary tour, so we've been around.
Oh my God.
Yeah. This is the first album since our original drummer Mike Portnoy rejoined Dream Theater.
I heard something about
that too.
Yes,
exactly. Yeah. After being absent for about 13 years or so. So
is it that long?
Yeah.
Holy cow.
So not only is that really exciting for us, but for all the fans as well.
It's funny, fans, and we're all fans of bands, that when someone leaves, and even if it's amicable, you just go,
right.
And you had great drummers after Mike left, and to come back, it feels like home. Everybody's happy again.
It does, yeah. And the story is with me and John and Mike. I mean, we met when we were teenagers, so it's like these are like we're all brothers.
Sure.
It's all your buddies. So it's like just playing together. You have this feeling of like, man, there's just incredible chemistry and vibe, and the fans are really, really loving every moment of it. But getting back to the album, so this is the first album written with Mike coming back. We started writing it earlier last year in February. Okay. It's called Parasomnia. If you don't know what that term means,
I don't.
It's very apropos for Dream Theater, because parasomnia encompasses any sort of sleep disturbance or disorder.
Got it.
So sleepwalking, night terrors, sleep paralysis, all that weird stuff that happens.
That's a good vein of material to write from.
Totally. So that was the title. I had come up with the title before we started writing the album. So we wrote it thinking of that. So it's a very, dark, kind of creepy, weird, dreamlike album. It is a concept album as well.
Of course.
And so I think the fans are really going to enjoy it. We released 3 singles so far. Response has been great.
Yeah.
It comes out February 7th.
So how do you do that? I mean, obviously you want to challenge and please yourself first, but you have to write from the standpoint of, your fan base. Mm-hmm. Does it ever get to the point where you're like, we're going to challenge it so hard that, it's like with the guitars, it's almost tough to top it. Like you did with the Astonishing. I was like, that's a big thing to digest.
Exactly.
And they loved it. They ate it up.
But
so do you ever think, we'll just write some 3-minute pop songs and see if they like it?
We never think that way. I think for us, what drives us is just like me. The guys love doing this.
Okay.
And we love playing together. Mm. So as soon as we get together, like we have too many ideas. It's just we start writing and there's this flow. Mm. One of the things that happened this time, I think, was, because Mike coming back in, as we started writing, things started happening. You start to hear like these nostalgic hints of things, like hearkening back to some of the records that were part of his catalog with us. And instead of shying away from that, we kind of leaned into it.
You embraced it.
You know what I mean? Like, this sounds like this sounds like it's something that could be off a train of thought or scenes from a memory or whatever.
Okay.
And then we'll be like, but that's cool. Like, so
it's still you.
Right. Exactly. So I think the record, it has a very sort of modern sound and feel to it, but it also has a real classic vibe. And it's for us, that was the place that we wanted to go. And I hope that people enjoy it. But I think anybody who has been a fan of Dream Theater for a long time will appreciate that and kind of feel that right away.
I think if I, listen, the fans hear that and they probably go, they can't wait. I mean, because at the end of the day, it's part of your legacy. You've been doing this a long time. If you want to have elements of something that came, off the first album in a newer kind of framework, then have at it. I think some people almost, it's like, we can't do that. We've done that before. We're not repeating ourselves.
Right, exactly.
There's just elements of what we did before in there.
Yeah. There is something to be said for sort of creating a sound. I think that it's important for bands, especially who've been around for a long time, to not get stale and to certainly not get lazy and to go in and put their best foot forward every time. But at the same time, you don't want to do anything that's gonna, you did develop a style, a sound, a signature, and I think it's important to make sure that always remains, because that's another thing that can kind of throw people off completely. Like, what are you guys doing? This is like completely, you know what I mean? So
Sure.
it's just sort of this balance, this line that you walk.
Yeah, well, and having done this for as long as you have, we've all been in bands with our friends, and sometimes it's like, you love them like a brother, but they're not very good. Like, how do three people who play the way you guys do, like, you love each other like brothers, and it's like, oh yeah, we're all also really proficient at what we do. Well, was that just luck, or?
I mean, put it this way, John and I, we grew up together. I met him when I was 12. So all we did was play guitar and bass.
You're like one big
literally, we just, our pact was we had to practice 6 hours a day. Otherwise, we couldn't,
And would you hold each other to that?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I have this funny story that, if we were only like teenagers or whatever. So if somebody was throwing a party and you didn't see the other guy there, you knew that he hadn't got his practice finished.
Really?
Yes. That's where he was. There was no other place he could be.
But see, I don't think you realize how kind of rare that is, where two people are going to be that driven, and yet you're doing it out of love. It's not like a chore. It's not like, but you're saying, look, you got to put those hours in.
Totally. And then we went to Berklee College of Music in Boston. We met Mike, and he was in the same vein. And then, of course, the original keyboard player, Kevin, I knew him like even earlier than that. So you're talking about guys that like grew up doing this and cultivating this, and then with Jordan Rudess joining the band. At this point, and that's like over 25 years.
Has it been that long?
Yeah, and it's like, then now he's like incredible, and you're like, so what happens to me is I'm inspired by all of them.
You're like, I better keep my stuff together.
Because they're all like stellar musicians. So when you get together, everyone's kind of like pushing each other, and it's fun.
So how do you keep that going? How do you keep not only keeping your chops up, but like staying inspired? Like, I would imagine, having reached the level that you've had, when you do sit down with a guitar and it's just you in a room.
Yeah.
What do you do?
Yeah. Well, how do you keep your chops up is you got to practice. So it's still, to me, if you've been playing a long time, there's a lot of things that are ingrained in your muscle memory, but nothing replaces practice. You're going to play a concert at a certain level. You have to be like an Olympic athlete that's ready to go.
Right.
So nothing replaces that. You have to train and practice. I've heard people have asked me that a lot, about how do you stay inspired? How do you do this? I don't really know the answer, other than I just am, like, you know what I mean? I've always been a creative person, and I never pick up the guitar and get bored, or don't know what to play, or don't know what to,
I was hoping you had some answer. Like, I feel like I've just scaled a mountain, and you're sitting up there and you're like, the answer is niacin.
Yeah, exactly. The answer is lack of sleep.
Yeah, exactly. Well, you got a whole album about that.
There you go.
Yeah. That's pretty amazing. So, I mean, so what's next? The tour?
Yeah. So we're continuing on what is our 40th anniversary tour. We played in Europe, South America, and the day the record comes out is the day of the first U.S. show in Philadelphia.
Timed.
Yeah, perfectly timed. We'll do that. We do some festivals in Europe over the summer, and then we're going to sort of shift the theme of the tour to being more Parasomnia.
Okay.
Once we're
going to play the whole
festivals.
thing? Or?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So that's going to be cool.
How long is the album?
It's 70 minutes.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's a lot.
Yeah.
Any bands going out on the show with you, or you got anyone opening? Or?
No, this has been an evening with, it's a lot of songs, 3-hour show.
For sure.
Yeah.
That's like a marathon.
Yeah. And with Mike Portnoy coming back, one of the things he used to do was create the set list.
Oh, okay.
And he was like so anal about it. He knew what we played in this city and that. He had charts and everything. Yeah. And then when he left, like, I had to do it. So as soon as he came back, I'm like, dude, you're doing the set list again.
I'm sure he didn't have a problem.
No, he's like, oh yeah. So, we look forward to, on the U.S. tour, kind of changing up some songs and stuff like that, which our fans really appreciate as well.
Well, to wrap this up and talk about your guitars,
yes.
When you do go on tour, I mean, obviously the Mesa Boogies, your signature models, those are coming. Your tone print pedals, maybe here or there, your Dunlops, but how do you decide which guitars to bring with you?
That's a great question. Yeah. That's a great question.
Because you have so many.
Yeah. So one of the decisions has to do with the tunings. And
for sure.
What songs are in the set. You
okay.
know? Yeah. So we if the set has multiple tunings, and we know we're going to carry at least this many guitars, and then we always need a second guitar, as a backup. I try to tour with a balance of the models that we've created. So I will play JP6s live, 15s. I tend to gravitate mostly towards the Majesty, that neck through.
Yeah.
I'm just so, that guitar is my comfort zone.
It's an amazing instrument.
It's an amazing instrument.
It really is.
And then at that point, it's also a matter of, for example, the new finishes may have just come out. So it's like, I want to showcase it. Sure. I'm so excited. Like, I want to play this thing.
Well,
live.
as good as it looks there, just have all the lights on.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's a factor. We got to put some new guitars in. And then I also have favorites.
Okay.
So guitars that I've either recorded with a lot and that are really broken in, or I just love the finish and the way it feels, and they're starting to get a little beat up maybe. And so we put those in there as well. And my guitar tech's name is Maddie, and we actually have fun. Which one do you want to, we have these like crazy conversations about, like, it's like Tetris, trying to figure out, like,
right.
Well,
and I mean, obviously 6s, 7s, any 8s coming with you?
Yeah.
You ever going to do a 9?
I saw a guy came up to me in a signing with a 9. I was like, oh my God.
They exist. They're there.
They do, but that's like torture at that point. Just play a stick.
Yeah, well, that's true. Yeah, you get Tony Levin to come by and do it with you. But I mean, that's the thing. It's just neat to see that you guys this far into it. You love it as much as you do, but you're finding ways to not only incorporate elements of the past, but to keep it fresh and new. That's hard to do.
It is hard to do, and it does take like actual effort.
That word,
and thought, and work, and hours and stuff. But I love doing it.
That much is clear, and I really appreciate you taking the time to meet with us. We were really excited.
Yeah,
and it's nice to get off the floor. So
thanks
for having us up here.
It's nice and quiet over here.
It is. I don't think we're going to leave.
I'm just going to stay here the whole time.
Yeah, I'm going to do some shag carpet angels when you're done. So.
Perfect.
So you call this Toxic Sludge?
Yes.
I was thinking more, it looks like a kiwi to me.
Right, exactly. Yeah. But Toxic Sludge is such a metal name.
That is true.
Right?
Yes, it is.
Yeah, exactly. And in my family, we have great guitar naming sessions.
Oh, do you?
Yeah, so a lot of these were named by my son or my wife. Toxic Sludge. And this is a Majesty with the Ernie Ball, with the DiMarzio pickup covers with the Majesty logo, cool. Carved in and etched that Larry and his team came up with, and just a great look added to the Majesty. But this color is called Wolfsbane as well.
That's also a pretty good metal.
Yeah, I know.
Wolfsbane.
I'm telling you.
Well, and
I wish I could take credit.
That's a very good question, by the way. 'Cause in addition to all these amazing guitars, it seems like you're coming up with a different pickup model every other year.
You know what?
How do you change that? What do you do?
Yeah, well, for a while, very much like the guitars, we were experimenting with the pickups.
Okay.
And so I'd have conversations with Steve Blucher about, I think I could make this better. I think I could tighten up the low end, whatever. But at some point, many years ago, right after the JP13 came out, the pickups I was using on that guitar were called illuminators.
Right.
And the first Majesties had illuminators in them. But when I was having a conversation with Steve, we said, you never really designed a pickup for the Majesty because it was in the bolt-on guitar.
Right.
And now these are neck through.
Different animal.
Yeah, and I sent him a Majesty, and he came up with what are now called the Dreamcatcher and the Rainmaker. Yeah. And those have been the pickups in the Majesty ever since.
And you just didn't look back. That's it.
Didn't look back. Because when I remember he sent me them, we were in the studio. The album we were working on was Distance Over Time.
Okay.
And they came and we were like, in session. Maddie swapped the pickup out. I was like,
you heard it right away.
Like right away. It jumped out of the speakers.
Really?
Yeah. It was like, this is so bold, so like aggressive, but musical.
So same guitar with the different pickups?
Yeah, just the pickups. Yeah. So that hasn't changed. And again, I see no reason to change them. Once you get that point where it's like it's like you're working on a recipe or
right.
Or you're like making pizza and you figure, well, next time I'll just take it out a little sooner. Yeah,
exactly.
I like steak. Well, I'll pull my ribeye at like 116, and then I'll sear it, 90 seconds instead of.
We always talk about music and food analogy,
right?
So it's funny that you're doing that.
So it's like that. So this is the perfect formula.
Do you ever pick up like the early ones, like
I do.
Early, and you go, "Ooh, that pickup was better than I remember,"
Yeah,
or is it like
No, I absolutely do. And I love the back of the neck.
That's unbelievable.
Isn't that great?
Oof.
Because all of the guitars and pickups were all incredible. It's not like any of them like stunk.
No.
It's just a search to try to look for a certain thing. So like even the other day I picked up, it was a JP11 which is a model that we did that had a very flat radius. We were experimenting with like a 20-inch radius. So it was like almost like a classical guitar. And I was like, this guitar is cool. And I think it had the pickups in it, but there weren't these. And this sounds really good. So yeah. They all sound amazing. They all feel amazing.
Isn't that the beauty of it?
Yeah.
To pick these up, and they're all kind of calibrated to the way you want them to be, but they all have these little differences, and you do hear the difference.
You do. You do. You hear it or you feel it. I mean, there was a time we were experimenting with the fret material.
Okay.
There's something about these guitars that hasn't changed in forever, which was our initial design of the way the controls were laid out, which we were going for this very ergonomic sort of following of the arc of your arm. And so once we found that, we never looked back with that.
Yeah, I don't think that can be improved upon. I mean, it just feels like you could probably play that with your eyes closed in the dark. And
absolutely.
You're like, this is where I want everything to be. And
totally. Yeah. Even the way these three-way toggles are angled. They're not straight up and down. A lot of electric guitars switch will be like this, but as you're playing, sorry, I got the microphone.
No sweat.
And you're kind of playing and you flick your hand.
Right,
your
inadvertently.
Hand is going that way. It's not going down. So everything is ergonomic to the flow of your hand.
And that seems to be unique to Music Man guitars. I always notice that it's they'll countersink something differently. They'll improve the way a saddle sits on a bridge. Yeah. And it's minutia.
Yeah.
But it all adds up to something you go, that's why they're as good as what they do,
And a lot of these features are things that we've come up together, but sometimes it's just something that they'll
just pop onto it.
And I'm like, oh my God, that's so cool how you did that.
I remember on your original signature models, I remember remarking about how this, as a non-locking trem, it was like flawless. And then this version comes out, I'm like, that's even more flawless.
I know. It's crazy.
Yeah, no, it's awesome. And what do we have there?
So this one is also, I give my son credit for naming. This is Malachite.
Ooh.
Which is this, if you look up Malachite, this is exactly what Malachite looks like.
Really?
Yeah.
Is it like a mineral or a stone?
It's like a gem or a stone or one of those things.
That is ridiculous.
I should know the answer to that, but...
we'll fix it later.
But what I love about the finishes and the attention that Ernie Ball Music Man does is that, with the figured tops, whether it's the burl or the quilt like this, there's so much depth.
You can get lost in it.
There's so much that you look like it looks three-dimensional.
It really does.
Right? Like these waves are actually coming out of the guitar.
If you didn't know any better, you wouldn't even know it was wood. I think most people might look at that and go, "What is that, a graphic? Or is that it actual malachite?" And it's like, I can't believe that kind of wood exists somewhere.
I know.
And who finds it?
Their artistry is unmatched. So
it really is.
Very lucky.
It's stunning. Yeah, you absolutely are. And actually, you know what's funny? I don't typically like gold hardware, but the gold hardware with the Toxic Sludge is so sharp.
Yes.
Even the way the knobs are.
I know. Just all these little key features and touches.
It looks like you want to hold this guitar, but you can't.
I'm jealous right now.
Yeah, well, it's fine. Any other colors we want to go over? Any other cool
They're all
color
amazing.
Names?
They're cool color names.
And I love the maple board.
I was just gonna bring that up. The other cool thing about the 15s, the roasted maple board and back, like,
oh my goodness.
Just so beautiful.
It really is.
Yeah, and we were talking about, the figured tops, and the quilt always gives me like it looks like waves to me or whatever. So
absolutely.
This is called Red Tide.
Okay.
So kind of try to make some.
I love it with the satin
names.
Black hardware too. That's it's a mean looking guitar.
It really is. They just make me want to play them.
Well, isn't that the point? I mean, I think sometimes too people forget that, someone might say, well, how a guitar sounds or how it plays is the most important. And it is.
Yeah.
But if it looks cool, you want to pick it up.
Oh,
that's why they're in the front of the store.
Totally.
Everybody's like, I want that.
That's a hugely important factor.
It is. I think we should just not be ashamed of it anymore.
No. And there's some kind of serendipity today because, again, in our little talk, somebody brought that same thing up. What's more important? It was like,
I felt like that was such an original question.
I'm not calling you unoriginal.
Okay,
I'm saying that you're in line with the universe.
That's how I feel most of the time.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But like a guitar looks cool, like you want to play it, or you,
no doubt,
you want to wear it, like it's part of your look on stage. That's a big part of it.
Have you ever? I'm sure people come up to you and they say, "Hey, my son wants to learn how to play guitar," or they want to get a guitar. Like I work in an agency that makes, that sells guitars, and someone will say, Junior wants an electric guitar.
Yeah,
and they say, "What should I get?" I say, "Well, what color does he like?"
Right, sure.
Because if it looks cool, you're going to want to pick it up. And picking it up is the hard part.
Yeah.
You know, if you just leave it in a corner, it doesn't matter how cool it is. But if you're inspired to pick it, that's the beauty of a guitar.
Yeah.
You know, we were talking about this before, that not only how they look, but you take 10 players, and you've played with a lot of players.
Yeah.
And you each play through each other's rigs.
Yeah.
And it'll sound different, but it'll also sound like you.
It's totally, or not sound like the guy that you want to sound like.
Right, you're like, oh, this is going to make me sound like Steve Vai. You're like, nah, it's just me.
I literally, on one of the G3 tours, I'm like, Joe, can I play through you?
And?
I sounded nothing like Joe Satriani. I was like, how do you play with this? Like, he sounds like him, like incredible. And and I'm like, I don't sound like you. What's gone wrong?
No, but even if we picked up an acoustic and we each played a G chord, it's the same guitar.
Yeah.
It's the same chord, same strings, and it's like, well, that sounds completely different.
Yeah, 100%.
Well, and I don't know why that is.
Yeah.
Maybe it's insomnia.
Because we're human beings.
That's what it is.
Yeah.
Humans being. He gets me.
Okay, we're getting existential.
We're going back.
All right.
Yeah, man.
Awesome.
Really cool.
All right,
Thank
cool.
you again.
You're very
He's
welcome.
like, are we done now?
Thanks for going through the detail.
No, man, it's
Appreciate
awesome. It's like one after the other. I'm like, no, that's my favorite.
I know.
No, that's my favorite.